Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome once again to IGN's News, Games, and More. It's the show that we do every weekday, unless something comes up. I'm Max Scoville, and I'm joined by my good pals Matt Kim, Seth Macy, and Sydney Goodman. And we're here to talk about all sorts of great stuff. How's everyone doing?
Oh, man.
Hello, hello.
Well, that's some high energy right there.
Hey,
Great.
wait,
Hello,
I want
hello.
to share this. My Xbox died today.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, Christmas is just around the corner, and so are the new Xboxes, so that you got an excuse
Funny
to
how
get
that
one,
works.
probably. Sydney, I saw an animal walking around behind you. That's a cat, I believe, yes?
It is, yeah. Here, wait, can I grab them for you guys? Is that
Sure,
appropriate?
why not?
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, this actually ties into our next story. This is a very
Perfect.
good piece of news. I feel like there's a lot of
You're gonna see my pajama pants.
I feel like there's a lot of very bad news this year. We got a cool thing from Game Informer has a big exclusive story on Spider-Man Miles Morales, and including a little clip that shows off that there is going to be Spider-Cat in the game. There's going to be like a costume where you get a cat who helps you fight crime, which is nice. It's just like a weird little thing they could add, and I'm stoked. It looks great.
Does it have powers? Did they say?
Yes.
It attacks?
Yeah, like
He
what
will
are the attacks?
attack your finishing move. He will jump out of your bag and he'll scratch foes. And what that does, it gives them toxoplasmosis. And over the course of the next few decades, it slowly deteriorates their mental faculties. It's a very long con.
Is that like the thing that you get
Wow.
if you hang out with like cat litter boxes too much?
Yep, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. And
That's
it makes
probably,
mice
yeah.
attracted to cat pee so that then the cats can eat them.
Don't sniff cat litter.
So the verdict is still out on whether or not toxoplasmosis will be a major key part of Spider-Man Miles Morales on PlayStation 5, but we do know that the cat will be in the little backpack and you can swing around with the cat in the bag, which is tremendously cruel if you actually stop and think about it. Because
it feels dangerous.
yeah, I mean, yeah, no, that's going to be, I mean, cats, they always land on their feet, but if you land on your feet after plummeting 90 stories, you probably still die. So, you
I
know.
don't like this. I don't like this train of
Yeah.
thought.
Sorry, we got morbid.
It's a super cat, a spider cat.
Yeah, it's a spider cat.
Anyway.
Got bit by a spider.
So have you guys know about bodega cats?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I feel like what? Bidets?
If we know about bidets, I was like,
yeah. So anyway, this week we're presented by Toto Washlet. Everybody, it's the great way to clean your body. Anyway, we're off to a great start.
Sorry, I'm just putting us all over the map.
I was gonna say, I think it sort of at a glance it could be like, oh, this is just like corny and like phoned in, like for there to be like a cat in Spider-Man for whatever reason, who's not the Black Cat, the villain. But like in New York, they're like famously they're cats in all the bodegas and little corner stores, and they're just these like cute cats that like live there. And I guess in the game, the cat is named Spider-Man, and Miles goes into like his local bodega, and he's like, "Oh, cool, your cat's name is Spider-Man. That's my name because I'm also Spider-Man." And then I think he has to go save the cat or something. But that's a cute thing. I'm excited to play that game. I was excited to play it before the cat, but here we are.
Yeah.
I think it's a cute tie-in, and if you want more bodega cats, there's a Instagram that's just a bunch of bodega cats. It's very cute.
Instagram, Twitter.
That's
account.
a good one.
Good
now,
follows.
Speaking of PlayStation 5, we've sometimes we have news about it, and sometimes we have really stupid news about it. Unfortunately, today's news is very stupid. We got that big, huge breakdown video from Sony where they took apart the entire PlayStation 5, and we got to look at its guts and found out what the liquid metal is doing and all this stuff. And now I think a lot of people are still like, all right, well, why is it ginormous? And today we got sort of official confirmation from Sony's PS5 mechanical and thermal design engineer Yasuhiro Otaro, who said it's because of the fan. The fan is the part that's really big. Like that's
just the fan, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
he gets his chest, and that wigs me out.
I don't understand. I mean, I was gonna say I don't understand why it's so big. It's because of the fan. But why is the fan so big? I just don't.
It's all that power inside of there.
For cooling.
It's for cooling.
Do you guys know that meme format where it's like I just use this one as an example. It's like B movie, but every time they say B, it goes faster or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. I want a version of this video where he's like PS5 tear down, but every time he says PS5, it gets just a little bit bigger.
That would be good. I want someone to make that in Dreams. That sounds like I think you need some heavy CG for that. But yeah, so I guess the sort of the takeaway here, what's interesting, I mean, we're at that point where The interesting thing would be if we get to talk about brand new PlayStation 5 games, or I don't know, see the UI in action. That would be interesting. But because we don't have that information in front of us, the interesting thing is that this fan is cooling both sides of the guts. I guess normally there's like there's the A side and the B side, and in this case, the
Right.
fan is so big that it's cooling all of the inside of all of the inside of the PlayStation. And at one point, here's the real thrill. At one point, they considered using 2 fans,
Whoa.
and then they decided not to. And so now we have a giant
Uh,
ass fan that looks this huge ass panini press machine.
So big. I'm legit stressed trying to figure out where to put this thing.
That
Yeah.
teardown video
No
changed my
idea.
entire opinion of the PlayStation 5's aesthetic. The fan is my favorite part. I am a fan of the fan. I just love how ridiculous it is. I wish they had put in 2. In fact, Sony, make another one that's even bigger, please. With 2
So you want
fans.
2 big fans?
Yeah, I want
not
2
small fans. You
big
want 2 giant
multi-bladed fans. Yeah, I want them
Okay.
to just whir.
Oh.
So
Just-
my question is, I know that their whole thing is like it's quiet and
Mhm.
cool. I don't. Okay, this is just a video I saw on the internet. Who knows how true this is? But this guy was like, my PlayStation is really loud, the PS4, and so he took it apart, and it was because there was a bunch of like crap inside the fan, and so then he cleaned the fan out, and then it was quiet. So my question is, okay, I get it. You're cooling everything, and it's supposed to be quiet, and it needs to be cool. Get it? But if you're putting a giant fan, and the fan in the PS4 is the reason why it's so freaking loud, isn't it just going to be louder now?
No, because they have the new thing, and this is something I'm really excited about. But those big white things, the big like the Oreo
Face
cracker
plates.
part,
The
I don't know,
shell?
yeah,
The
the
shell?
shell,
Yeah.
the pistachio
Yeah.
corners, whatever. Like
Mhm.
that, those things pop off, and there's basically like there's a whole like dust trap that you can vacuum with a regular vacuum cleaner.
Mhm.
So instead of doing that thing where you just blast it with like a canned air and just get like dust everywhere and probably, guarantee yourself some lymphoma down the line, like it's just, you just vacuum it up and it's nice and simple.
Maybe I'm a bad PC owner. How many times do people open their PC and clean it? Because mine
Oh
literally,
my
I can just
God,
pop it
all
off,
the
and I don't think
time.
I've ever cleaned my PC.
It's my favorite thing in the world. By the way, little electronics pro tip: don't let the span fin when you shoot it. Or, wait, don't let the fan spin when you shoot it with air. You'll wear out the bearings. But anyway,
Oh.
yeah, dude. Oh, mine
That's a
is
good
always dust free. I like it so excited when a mote of dust lands on my PC because I can get out my air and just give it a go.
When I was in high school, I had a PC and I was very poor, so I didn't really have any stuff to upgrade it with, but I would like take it apart and clean it for no reason, or I would steal my
Yeah.
friend's old RAM and I would put more RAM in. I'd be like,
Oh,
wow,
man.
now I have like,
You'd ram it in.
I would just ram it, yeah. No, I was like, oh, well, finally I have a CDRW drive, and like just sad times. Anyway, while we're on the subject of PlayStation 5 stuff, one thing I'm really excited about is the DualSense controller, because I haven't experienced one. Like, I feel like it might be a really cool thing, like the whole haptic feedback thing. It's got, reactive triggers or whatever. We have a tidbit of information about that from a blog post over the 2K put up about NBA 2K21, which apparently uses the DualSense controller to simulate your basketball players being real tired from doing the hoops too hard, for running up and down the court and doing the big dunks. I don't know a lot about sports, so some of this actually lost me, but players will begin to feel more and more resistance on the sprint trigger as the characters they're controlling begin to run out of energy. So like you have to like push harder to make your dudes run across the court. Like that's so stupid, and I'm there for it. Like I'm completely into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. The DualSense sounds like such a silly but potentially fun. I don't want to use the word gimmick, but that's the only word that keeps appearing in my head because it kind of that's a gimmick, like when simulating your tiredness on the right trigger is a gimmick, but it's a silly and funny one. So,
we'll all be looking back on this in 10 years, being like, this is the moment when tiredness was expressed through a trigger press. Now we take it for granted. All tiredness is through a trigger press.
I mean, that could be used in like a less gimmicky mechanic, where if you have a game that requires stamina, like Demon Souls, for instance, if you start being able to feel when you're running out of stamina, as opposed to just like glancing at your HUD and being like, "Oops, I'm bad at games, and I should have been looking at that more." I don't know. There's a whole thing here that I don't understand because I don't know anything about sports, and I don't play NBA 2K. But for players who like to run a strong post game, the DualSense adaptive triggers will also factor in. Players with stronger post-game stats will feel very little resistance on the L2 trigger when backing down weaker opponents. Players with weaker post-game stats will have to pull harder on L2 if they want to do the same. I don't know what post-game means. Does that make sense to anybody?
It's not like post-game. It's not like after the game. It's like post-game, like you post up. You know what I mean?
Your
Like you've heard the
post-game.
expression,
Like
yeah,
when you're posting.
post-game.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not like you unlock a new games plus mode and you get more powerful.
It's not like
opponents.
end game. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think-
no,
I think it's cool to see like NBA 2K is obviously not like a PlayStation exclusive game, and it's cool to see that they're using the adaptive haptic feedback, because I feel like I do think I am totally fine calling this a gimmick. I don't think all gimmicks are bad, but
Yeah.
I do think that this is like gimmicky, and I feel like in the past gimmicks like this have kind of just like faded into the distance after maybe the first year or two of like of it being there. And so I think seeing that there's like studios that aren't first party using it seems cool.
I think it must be like a thing that if there's Sony's like, oh, you want to have a PS5 launch title? Well, you got to use our new tricks. You got to do our, because like I remember the first time I held a PS4 controller. Was it the first time? It was one of the first times I held a PS4 controller and got to like use the touchpad on it, was playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And all you could do with it in that, as if I recall, was it let you pinch to zoom on the map.
Yeah.
So like I was like dragging it around. I straight up remember making a video where I was like, look at that. Yeah, you can zoom in on the pirates. Like the X marks the spot, everybody. And then that was it. And like before that, with the PS3, there was this like the 6-axis, which didn't really.
Oh yeah, nobody used that. I forgot all about it. I remember on the PlayStation 2, the big deal was that the buttons were pressure sensitive. So when you're playing a game like Gran Turismo, you know, you can how hard you push on the button is just like the gas, which we take for granted now because it's all on the trigger buttons. But it was so weirdly set up that you kind of had to rest your finger on the very edge of the controller and very delicate. And I just never used it.
That was a whole thing in Metal Gear Solid 2, where if you wanted to like hold up a dude for his dog tags, you had to like ease off the trigger. And I remember in high school feeling like I was better at that game, and then jumping into the HD collection and being like, I keep shooting these men in the neck. I feel like it could very well be that. Like I don't know. It's weird to think about that.
I'm gonna expose myself a little bit here. I was late. I like bought a PlayStation 4 very late into the generation, like mid-generation. And prior to that, I was not in the video game industry. I was just living my life as a college student, doing whatever. And up until you just said what the application of that giant black thing is, I had no idea that was a touchscreen.
Yeah, it's
I thought it was. I mean, I also just the PlayStation like interface confuses the heck out of me. Even though like I had a PSP and like I played the original PlayStation. Well, I guess that doesn't really matter. But I've never understood it, and I don't know what it does when you press it. But I know that it does. I did not know that it was a touchscreen.
Yeah, real talk. They stopped using it as a touchscreen after the first year. Now it's just like a glorified start button for most games.
There's a bunch of games that use it. Like I think in The Witcher you can do swipe gestures. Like if you swipe up, it opens your map, and if you swipe to the right, it opens your like stats, as opposed to having to like hit like the right side of it and then tab through the different menus. But like no one cares. No one, you know. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. And that's the thing about that is weird about this generation is we're coming into like new consoles, and I mean people have the Series X out in the wild, but like the PS5 is this weird mystery box, and I feel like the first time I get to experience that, it's going to be the day I open my own, which is like that's never happened, you know. Like I feel like there's always a demo kiosk at Best Buy or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of love it though. Like because I feel like I get that I love it because I feel like I'm in a different place than maybe most consumers. Like I know I'm getting one. Like it's easy for me to justify, like, I need it for work or whatever. But I feel like it's kind of fun. It feels like how whenever they do the press cycle for Pokemon, I always don't want them to show evolution forms or any other Pokemon other than the first three, because I want to find them in the wild myself. And I usually try my best like not to see any of it. And I feel like this is kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and it's weird that they're not showing off the like this new like fully revamped UI before the PlayStation comes out. But I kind of hope they keep it a secret. I think it'd be cool to just like plug it in for the first time and be like,
No, it's gonna be
there
awesome.
it
It's
is.
gonna be a surprise. Like I'm
Yeah.
right there with you on that. Let's
Watch, they
see.
announce the UI tomorrow.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We have this thing. We do the weekly IGN PlayStation show, which usually records on Tuesdays, and Sony has this amazing track record of always dropping massive news on like Wednesday morning. So we'll put up a new episode and we're like, great news, everybody. Crash Bandicoot is back and the new game is pretty good. And then they'll be like, we took apart the entire PS5, and everyone in the comments like, why didn't you talk about the PlayStation, idiots? And we're like, anyway.
Oh man, yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about something besides PlayStation 5. I don't want to talk about this. Did any of you get into Dexter, the Showtime show about the man who killed people with the
I heard from everyone that it was hot garbage, so I decided not to watch
Really?
it.
I
Yeah.
heard from everyone that it was amazing, and then like while it was on, and then I guess it ended in a way that people weren't very happy about, and so that's why I never watched it. It was because I was like, well, I don't want to start watching this show if it just like falls off a deep end like 4 seasons in.
Well, anyway, they're bringing him back. They're bringing back old Dexter. They're doing like a new standalone 11 episode season on Showtime. This just got announced like right before we came in here. And yeah, I don't know. I watched that was like one of those shows that when it was on, everyone was like, Dexter's the best show. Oh my God, Dexter's so cool. And I tried to get into it. And I was like, I actually hate this show. Like I
What
don't know.
didn't you like about it?
So this thing, it bugs me about Dexter and House, which were both on at the same time. And people were like, I feel like had the same appreciation for that, where like you've got this core central character who's like kind of a badass and kind of interesting, and there's something like weird about them, and then just because it's TV shows, they're like, well, we're going to focus on his sister-in-law, or like today this episode is all about the goings on of like the guy who works down the hall from House or whatever. It's like I don't know, like you've got a dude who's murdering people or like a magic doctor who's like addicted to drugs. Like focus on that. That's way more. I don't know.
Was that the hook on House? I never watched House.
No, he could turn into a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could it was like a transformer.
Yeah. It's very cool.
The moment House became ridiculous for me is like, oh, he's like Sherlock Holmes, house, like a home in a house.
Wait,
And I'm
stop
like,
it.
yeah, and I'm like,
sucks. Oh God, I never got that. That sucks.
yeah,
I hate it.
right? And I was like, ooh, actually, I don't think I can watch the show anymore.
Oh man.
Okay.
Well, Dexter's back for a season.
Yeah, Dexter's back. We got good Lord. Everyone's just getting riled up in the comments about the consoles, going back and forth. Good Lord. Just
they're both good, guys.
Somebody said the new season of Dexter will be better on Xbox. So like you get to watch Michael C. Hall killing people at like 120 frames a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about something that is fully multi-platform. Actually, I don't. It's not really. It's Monster Hunter the movie. We got our first trailer for that. I thought that was a multi-platform, but I realized that's on PlayStation 4. Anyway, they're making a new movie, and it's the guy who did the Resident Evil movies, Paul W.S. Anderson, starring his wife, who's also in the Resident Evil movies, Mia Jovovich. And we got this trailer, and it looks. If you're a fan of Monster Hunter, you're probably very cross with it because it's got like bazookas and Humvees. But if you're a fan of big, loud action movies, you're probably pretty hype. It looks. I get like legitimate like Transformers 1 vibes from this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm pretty hyped because I'm a fan of dumb movies, and this looks exactly what I'm after.
Ironically, or do you just really like dumb movies?
No, I just don't care. Like I love, great movies, but I also like to shut my brain off. Like the premise of this movie reminds me of a story I would have written in 6th grade where some army guys got zapped and ended up in a video game world in a lightning storm. Like that's almost every story I wrote in 6th grade had a lightning storm taking a character into a video game world. So I am 100% into the Monster Hunter movie.
That's fair.
Okay.
I mean,
Uh,
I guess we're all sort of not like if I was like if this was a trailer for like the Metal Gear Solid movie and it looked like this faithful, I'd be very angry because I love Metal Gear. But because I don't really have any attachment to Monster Hunter, I'm like,
mm.
yeah, sure, whatever, why not? I'll check it out. But
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
like,
This is
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. I have no attachment to Monster Hunter. I played like a demo of it for like an hour and it was fine. I ultimately didn't end up playing it because I have a hard time like with killing monsters. This sounds ridiculous. With killing monsters in games, like I couldn't finish Shadow of the Colossus because I felt so sad for them because I felt like I don't know like why like I'm on their turf and like I don't really understand like it's just why am I hunting this monster to like make things out of its parts? Like I just couldn't get on board. Anyways, with all that said, I still like I don't understand how the people who are making this movie played the game, hopefully, and then took this movie out of their experience playing the game. It just doesn't
I mean,
translate for me.
so I'm reminded of a great a cinematic great, which is the Masters of the Universe film, which
Oh,
is of
baby.
course the '80s He-Man cartoon, which takes place it takes place on Eternia, a faraway distant land in another realm. And for the movie, they had a whole bunch of characters get sucked to Earth. Like they came to like a small town in the middle of Earth, and they had
Yeah.
Skeletor going around, and then Courtney Cox, who worked at like a chicken restaurant, was in it, and she had to like team up with He-Man and Man at Arms, and uh, it's kind of like that where I think on some level doing fully imaginative like fantasy world building is both prohibitive on on a production level. Like it's easier to get army surplus fatigues and rocket launchers and Humvees for your movie because people make all sorts of movies that use those things than it is to well we've got to outfit an entire army with uh like lobster claw armors and giant battle axes and stuff. Like
Ooh.
it's a lot, and to build like a giant weird pirate castle or whatever. Like the places in those games that are like completely out of your, and I think they're gonna have some of that, but at the same time, and also for your average moviegoer, like you look at somebody with a bazooka and a Humvee, and you're like, I understand what all of that is. And then if they're like they're fighting monsters, you're like, go on, this is interesting. I understand one of those factions. But if you were like, I feel like if you showed an average moviegoer like a live action version that is 100% faithful of what Monster Hunter looks like, they would be like, well, how are they able to hold that big axe? Like, why are they? Why?
Like I just love the idea. I just love knowing that Capcom, like it's not like Capcom like lost the rights to its IP or anything like that, right? Like Capcom signed off on all of this, and so I love that. I love that they're just like, yes, we made the games, but we're also into this movie idea that you have. Military fighting our monsters. Sign us up.
Yeah,
Good
Where's the
for them, I
cat?
guess.
I
That was
want
the
the
only
yeah.
reason
Oh
why I
yeah.
was trying to get myself into Monster Hunter was for the outfits for feline.
I wonder if
That's
this means we're gonna get a Monster Hunter the movie the game, like we got Street Fighter the movie the game.
Wow.
I would. Oh, what if they do? What if they do DLC for Monster Hunter World and it's just like regular ass military stuff? Like you just get like an M4.
Maybe I'll play it then. I don't know.
I'd be into it. That's a whole thing. Anyway, shifting gears, talking about other big, huge, massive video game IPs. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is the upcoming one, which is about the Vikings.
Yep.
Sort of in following the trend set by the previous couple games. I guess it was just it was just Odyssey, huh? But you could pick the gender of your hero character, and in this case, you are choosing. It's the same character, but you can pick whether they're a man or a woman. But at the same time, you can also pick an option where you let the what is it called? The Animus, the
Yeah.
VR thing that lets you time travel back into your grandparents' DNA or whatever the premise of that game is.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah, that's actually
Come
it.
on.
Yeah,
pretty
no,
much
it's like
it.
it's just
You said
the,
it. It sounds ridiculous when you say it, but that's actually it.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's like ancestry.com the ride. It's 23andMe in VR. But so basically there's a third option where you can basically have the game you say like let the Animus pick for me, and so you will be, I guess, sporadically swapping between being a male or female protagonist
Yeah.
throughout the game depending on the scenario, which sounds
Yeah.
intriguing.
Huh.
Yeah, because canonically they're both right, right? Like
Yeah.
And so the AI that controls the Animus is just like, yeah, you know, whatever, man. They're both the same or they're not, but you can play as both.
So I'm gonna say I don't know. I just first of all, whenever I see animus written out, my brain automatically reads it as anus for some reason. I think it's because there's not very many other words that have like an AN and then US. But that's not what I was gonna say. What I was going to say is that like cool, give people the option to choose. But what I don't really, it seems like not gimmicky, but like when they were, if I remember correctly, when they initially said, "Oh, like it's canon to play both male or female because of how the animus like reads the DNA," like there's kind of like some left up to interpretation. I just like if nothing's gonna change in the story to be male or female, it's literally just cosmetic.
Yeah.
To me, it feels gimmicky to say like, "Oh, you can also let the animus decide," and that just makes it feel like it's just like rolling a die.
Yeah,
Of
there's a
what it
weird
wants you to
so there's
be.
a weird thing that happened with I think it was the Odyssey DLC where it was like I'm totally getting this wrong because I didn't play that game and I didn't play the DLC, but there's a whole thing where there's like an ending or something that involves like it I think it involves like grandchildren or something, and like it's one of those things where if you depending on which character you played as, if you picked it, if you played as like the man or the woman, you would have like a different ending or like a different you'd end up with like a different character. And at the same time, I think you could have like same-sex romance options.
Mhm.
And so this DLC just kind of like sort of like ignored that and was like,
Yeah.
no, you wound up with so and so. And a lot of people were like really pissed off because they were like, that's not how my game ended. Like that doesn't line up.
Yeah.
But I think you're totally right, Sid, where it's just like is it deliberate? Like if you could just swap back and forth, like what's the point, you know?
I think it's a real case of like Ubisoft, what is it, having its cake and wanting to eat it too, but not doing it good, not doing it
I
great,
think I
right?
think it's like you know the soft serve ice cream
Yeah.
machines where if you can't pick between vanilla or chocolate, you can just get the swirl, and you're like, I got
Yeah.
both. It's the same, whatever.
Does that
Yeah.
really just tastes like watered down chocolate?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about this. I wanna play this.
I hear it's weird, and I hear it's like surprisingly like silly. Like apparently there's like a mission that a bunch of people, including our own team, previewed where you just collect a bunch of viper eggs for a farty witch woman. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
I
and
can
that's
get on board with that.
mm,
Uh, I don't. Sometimes I want to try to do like a clever segue, but I really can't go from like farting viper witch eggs to James Bond. But here we are. Yeah, so they're obviously Daniel Craig's final role as 007 will be No Time to Die, which is coming out sometime later because it is currently No Time to Die, and going to the movie theaters is a risky endeavor these days. But they've basically said that they want to reimagine the role for the next person to play Bond because the whole thing is they want it to be they don't want someone who's just going to come in and play Daniel Craig. You know, they want like a new Bond because there's that whole kind of like that legacy of like different actors really taking on that mantle. But yeah, producer Barbara Broccoli says it will have to be reimagined in the way each actor has reimagined the role. That's what's so exciting and fun about the franchise. The character evolves. Eventually, when we have to think about it, we'll find the right person. And Broccoli revealed that she is standing firm in her earlier casting opinion that 007 could be played by a person of color, but not a woman. He doesn't need to be a white man, not as far as I'm concerned, but we should create roles for women, not just turn a man into a woman.
yeah.
I fully support this. I feel like people are always like, make a female James Bond, and it's like, go watch the girl with the dragon tattoo. Like
Yeah.
go watch I don't know, like La Femme Nikita or the like Red Sparrow or Atomic Blonde. Like there's all these
Silk
different
stockings on the
yeah,
USA Network.
yeah.
Uh,
There's all these other,
mhm.
like lady spy adventures, but like James Bond is sort of just like I don't know. I guess we got to sort of distill like who is that character.
Yeah, I don't even like James Bond. You know,
Yeah, I'm not a big Bond fan
sorry.
actually.
I didn't.
Thought I
Oh
was the
my
only one, so
God.
I'm
Sid,
mad
are
at
you a
that.
Bond fan?
So I am by I like inherited it. My grandparents from the Philippines, for the longest time, they had the entire set of James Bond films, and that's literally all they watched. So anytime I went to their house, we watched James Bond. And it's so funny because they are very like in their faith Catholic, like we are very strict grandparent sort of a thing. But then they're watching James Bond and he's like fondling all these women, and it was like very confusing how that like played into their ideals.
Mhm.
And I love my grandparents so much, but I associate James Bond with my grandparents, and so I think I just have like a real big soft spot for James
Aw.
Bond, and just like going back and watching them, like it's so ridiculous. And then the ones now are like generally pretty good movies. But no, I'm completely with you, Max, and I feel like we're all kind of in agreement in terms of I agree. Like you don't need to, yes, diversity in film, but I don't think that necessarily means taking characters and just like flipping them for no real reason.
I'm more like skeptical about what you do with that character. Like I think that so much of kind of current politics is like I don't know. It's like it's a lot of information warfare, and it's you obviously
Yeah.
still want to have like action packed stuff, but everything is so sort of complicated now. I mean,
Mm.
it's always been complicated. It's just where I guess I'm old now, but
Mhm.
I would kind of love to see Bond revisited as like a period piece and just go back and be
Oh,
like, all right,
yeah.
Yeah.
here's Cold War stuff. Like here's like classic, like old school, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No,
I'd
that'd
like
be
that.
cool. Like a
That is really
prequel or
cool.
something.
I thought you were gonna say like James Bond in like the current workplace, and like he like gets knocked for like sexual harassment and like
I
has to
mean,
like navigate. Like he's like
Yeah.
kind of the like older dude who like refuses to like change to the working environment now, and he's just kind of confused. Everyone's like, "Oh,
once
that's just James
they've
being
been
James."
they've been doing that for 20 years. Like that was like rewatch Goldeneye because that's completely a thing in there where the big hurdle in like in the 90s was suddenly people were talking about sexual harassment and like what is it isn't okay, and it was sort of this idea of this like chauvinistic like hero was sort of it wasn't really in. So and
Yeah.
also like
Mhm.
Bond in the 80s was like weirdly like hit or miss because the Cold War was like I guess sort of at its coldest, and also the rise of like the conventional action movie. Like we had Stallone and Schwarzenegger doing stuff,
Oh
and the idea
yeah,
of like
Cobra Commando. Come on now.
yeah, Cobra Commander. It was great.
Cobra
Just
Commander.
but yeah, like they kind of they I think really struggled to sort of make Bond relevant again, and they got it right with Goldeneye, and then every subsequent Brosnan one after that was like increasingly kind of missing the mark. And then I feel
Yeah.
like the Daniel Craig ones are pretty like it's probably the most solid track record of any Bond, I think.
But I
Yeah.
think I like Daniel Craig. I think I like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond better for some reason. I
He
just
always
really
looks like
like
he
him
has
as
to
James
go to the
Bond.
bathroom.
He'll always be
Oh.
Remington Steele to me.
Yeah. I mean,
None of you
sorry.
get that because I'm old. You're not.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
He'll always be the stepdad from Mrs. Doubtfire, or like the mom's boyfriend who gets hit in the head with a line. It was a
The
I
red
always
light
think it's like
fruiting.
Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh yeah,
one
yeah.
of the suitors in Mamma Mia.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I don't know. Like all the Bonds do something differently, and I think like Connery was Sean Connery. I think he was almost too much of himself and not enough Bond. I actually went back and read all the Bond novels, and they are a wreck and like just deeply offensive, like flat out like they say stuff you just like can't say. And also he just eats so much butter, like he eats butter on
What?
everything. Yeah, no, like he drinks like a fish, and then he'll be like, oh, and then he had like a bowl of hollandaise sauce, and you're like, that's not
Yeah,
this
man.
man will be very thick.
That's just British food, man. You're just being. You're just being.
Yeah. And then they actually did there was like a whole kind of meta thing about that where his boss is like, dude, you are an unhealthy human being. You need to get some medical attention. And so they send him to this like retreat. I think that's oh god, that's the only Bond movie they've like flat out remade, I think, which is they did one with Connery, and it was Connery returned to the role, and he was like way too old to be Bond at that point. Like he was like getting up in years, wearing like a very very obvious hairpiece, and he gets sent to this like retreat, and then assassins show up and try to like kick his ass while he's getting a massage, or they like try to strangle him on a Pilates machine, and it's just and the whole time they're making him drink like celery milkshakes and just be all healthy.
Is
It's a good
this
time.
real or a fever dream that you had once?
That's a real movie. They did it twice. It's like they're like, Mr. Bond, you've been eating too much butter and having too much scotch. You got to go to the Swedish retreat, and then Spectre tries to get him.
Okay.
Anyway, I hope they make more James Bond movies again soon.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like
I'm
Daniel
excited to see
Craig
No
should
Time to Die.
retired. He should have retired in Skyfall. Like, you could kind of see him phoning it in Spectre, if you watched it, but I don't know.
I
I
don't
just
know.
like
I'm
the Barbara Broccoli's name is Barbara Broccoli.
Yeah.
I think it's such a good name.
Yeah. Hell
That's a
yeah.
good name. Now, finally, one last story that I have to talk about because it's me. Speaking of hyper-masculine dudes in well-tailored suits beating the crap out of each other, Yakuza is getting a retro-styled Streets of Rage-esque beat 'em up, which is going to be coming to PC, I think, in a couple days. It's going to be on Steam for a limited time. It's called Streets of Kamurocho, which is, of course, the setting of most of the Yakuza games. And it's just like this is part of Sega is celebrating its 60th anniversary with 60 days of weird stuff, and this is definitely weird and fun.
And this is free to download and free to own. This isn't a paid game. Like you can only download it for like 2 days.
Yeah,
but it's completely free.
Weird, but cool.
It comes out on the 17th, so if you're a fan of it, be sure to download it because it will disappear forever. But if you do download it, you get to keep it forever.
Right.
Yeah.
At no additional cost.
Yeah, for free. Por Libra.
And this is where I point out that Sega stands for Service Games. And that's why it's always capitalized, because it's a portmanteau.
Do you think that guy who did the Sega commercials in the 90s was just reading it like in all caps, like a shout, and that's why it was always like Sega?
It's exactly what happened. Yes.
I just started Yakuza 0. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, Yakuza's great. Everyone should listen to Max.
Okay, I have wanted to start Yakuza 0. I have it downloaded.
Do it. Start it.
I just
it's a delight. 1 second you're like you're fighting against just some gangsters, and then the next second you're like reading a magazine.
I just don't like sitting at my desk playing video games, if that makes sense. Like I want to play it on my couch, but I have it on PC.
Take the PC into the living room.
Do you have Game Pass? Oh wait, your Xbox exploded, huh?
My Xbox exploded.
Oh, I'm Maddum wants to know how your Xbox died. He's in the chat and he wanted to know what happened.
Let me tell you. So I actually have a shoot. I have 2 shoots this week that need my Xbox, and so I went to turn it on today, and it went doo-doo, and then died, and it just kept doing that over and over. And so then I got a different power brick, still died. I'm pretty sure there's still a disc in there. Actually, I have to open it up before I get rid of it.
I bet it's cat hair.
I truly don't know how it died. Like first I thought it wasn't. I think it's not getting enough power, to be honest with you. And so I would imagine it's probably something to do with how it's accepting power.
Oh yeah, you got to recap it. Get in there with your soldering iron. Take the old caps out, put some new ones in there.
Yeah, if I didn't have a Series X on its way, I would put more effort into it. But I've just accepted its fate, and I'm borrowing one from work, or borrowing one from work
you should
for the next
check out
days.
Yakuza on Game Pass because it's on there, or you hang out and wait for the new one, which is even supposed to be all sorts of silly.
I'm very excited for the new one.
All right, well that's it. Everybody, where can people find you? Matt, your Law of TD on Twitter.
You can just search Matt Kim. I'm the band, the hot hit college indie band.
There it is.
Yeah.
And Seth, you're Seth Macy.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube though. I do videos now too sometimes.
Sweet.
They're real fun.
And Sid, where can people find you?
I'm just Sid So Good everywhere. And if you want more live streaming and IGN's not streaming anything, I'm streaming on Twitch at 5 p.m.
Oh shit.
Oh sweet. Well, that's coming up, so we better let you go. Was that it? Was there anything else? Oh yeah, huge thanks to Marian for running things behind the scenes and playing the videos and stuff. And thank you to everyone in the chat who behaved themselves. Everyone who didn't, we saw you. We wrote your name down, and we're going to talk to you later.
We have a list. There's a Google Doc of names.
Anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.